Even after the drones powered down and drifted away, the station itself seemed to hum louder, as if the metal walls were whispering warnings. Red hazard lights pulsed along the corridor, painting everything in slow, bleeding shadows. Leary clung to Elia's jacket like it was the only solid thing left in the universe. "Are they coming back?" she whispered. Elias didn't answer right away. He scanned the corridor, instincts forged in war screaming at him to move. Station security wouldn't ignore a priority alert for long, especially not one involving a human veteran and an unregistered alien minor. "Yeah," he said quietly, "but not yet." He lifted her into his arms without thinking. She was lighter than she should have been, far too light for someone her age. He adjusted his grip, careful not to hurt her, and started moving through the narrow service corridor behind the market. "Hold on tight," he told her. She wrapped her thin arms around his neck. As they moved, the station's polished trade halls gave way to rusted maintenance tunnels. The air grew warmer, thicker, heavy with the smell of coolant and ozone. Pipes hissed overhead. Somewhere far above, a security siren wailed. "Why are they mad?" Leary asked softly. "Because they don't like when people break their rules," Elias replied. "Did we break a rule?" He hesitated. "Yes," he admitted, "a bad one." She went quiet for a long moment. Then in a small voice she asked, "Are they going to take me back?" Elias tightened his grip. "No," he said firmly, "not while I'm breathing." They reached a sealed maintenance hatch. Elias pressed his palm to the rusted panel, activating an old biometric override, one that shouldn't have worked anymore. The door slid open anyway. Leary gasped, "You're magic." He almost laughed. "Just old," he muttered. Inside was a forgotten service tunnel, dimly lit and lined with abandoned equipment. Old cargo crates were stacked along the walls, some broken, some sealed for decades. It smelled like dust and time. Elias set Leary down gently and knelt in front of her. "Listen to me," he said, keeping his voice calm. "If things get loud, you stay behind me, no matter what." She nodded quickly. "I can be quiet, I learned." That broke something in him. Before he could respond, a metallic voice echoed from the corridor behind them. "Unregistered human. Release the child and submit for detention." Red light flooded the tunnel entrance. 3 security units rolled in, weapons charged. Elias stood slowly, placing himself between the drones and the small figure behind him. "She's under my protection," he said. "You don't have jurisdiction here." "False," the lead drone replied. "The child is property of the Interstellar Displacement Authority." Leary's fingers clenched in his jacket. "She's not property," Elias growled. "She's a person. Designation, NON citizen. NON sentient status." The drone's voice cut off. Elias' eyes hardened. He raised his wrist again. "Override code, Heart 7 Echo." The air crackled. The drone froze mid-sentence, system stuttering. The others hesitated, their targeting optics flickering. For a long second, nothing moved. Then, system error, priority conflict detected. The drones powered down one by one, clattering lifelessly to the floor. Silence returned. Leary stared at the fallen machines, her mouth slightly open. "You stopped them," she whispered. Elias exhaled slowly, his heart pounding. "Just for now." He knelt again, meeting her gaze. "Listen to me, Leary. What I'm about to do will make things harder, dangerous. But if I walk away, they'll take you, and I won't let that happen." She studied his face, searching for something, fear, doubt, lies. Finding none, she reached into her pocket. The 3 rusty coins, she placed them carefully into his palm. "For food," she said, "and for choosing me." His throat tightened. He closed his fingers around the coins, then gently pushed them back into her hand. "No," he said softly. "You keep those. They remind you of where you came from." She smiled, a small, fragile thing, but this time it reached her eyes. Somewhere above them, alarms continued to echo. The station would send more units soon, stronger ones. Elias stood, lifting her into his arms once more. "Come on, kid," he said. "Let's go find you a future." As he disappeared into the shadows of the lower decks, the galaxy shifted, just a little, because one broken man had chosen to protect one forgotten child. And that choice was about to change everything. Everything. The bounty went live before Elias reached the lower decks. Every screen flickered at once, holoads died mid-loop, station maps glitched, and then a crimson alert spread across every corridor like spilled blood. Wanted. Human male, ELIAS Heart. Crime, illegal extraction of protected asset. Status, extreme risk. Bounty authorization, open contract. Leary watched the screens in silent terror from Elias' arms. "That's you," she whispered. Elias didn't answer. His jaw was locked tight, eyes scanning every shadow, every vent, every reflection in the metal walls. He had known this would happen, but seeing his face broadcast across an entire station still sent a cold jolt through his spine. "Listen to me," he said quietly as he ducked into a maintenance junction. "Things are about to get worse, a lot worse." "Because of me?" Leary asked, her voice shaking. He stopped walking. Slowly, he turned to face her. "No," he said firmly, "because they're afraid." She frowned. "Of what?" "Of what happens when people stop obeying." A distant explosion rattled the corridor, followed by shouting. Mercenaries this time, not station drones. The kind who didn't ask questions, only collected payments. Elias cursed under his breath. "They hired hunters already," he muttered. "Fast ones." He moved again, deeper into the underlevels, boots splashing through coolant leaks and shadowed runoff channels. The deeper they went, the older the station became, sections abandoned decades ago, forgotten by law and order alike. Perfect places to disappear, or die. Leary pressed her face against his chest as distant footsteps echoed behind them. "Why do they want me so badly?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Elias hesitated, then he told her the truth. "Your people weren't just conquered," he said. "They were classified." She looked up at him, confused. "Your species can adapt faster than any known race. Your bodies, your minds, you learn, you evolve." His jaw tightened. "The wrong people saw that and decided you were too valuable to be free." Her grip tightened painfully. "They said we were broken," she whispered, "that we needed fixing." Elias' eyes burned. They lied. A sharp crack echoed down the corridor. Energy fire scorched the wall inches from his head. "Contact!" a voice shouted behind them. Elias spun, pulling Leary behind a fallen bulkhead as plasma bolts tore through the air where they'd been standing seconds earlier. Sparks rained down, lighting the dark in violent flashes. 3 bounty hunters emerged, armored, masked, moving with professional precision. One of them laughed. "Human, you're worth more than the kid now. Walk away and we might let you live." Elias stood slowly, placing himself fully in front of Leary. "You're not taking her," he said. The bounty hunter cocked his weapon. "Then you die first." The first shot came fast. Elias moved faster. The world narrowed into instinct and memory. Training burned into muscle and bone from wars he never wanted to fight. He grabbed a loose metal rod from the floor, deflecting the shot, then charged. The corridor erupted into chaos. Sparks, smoke, shouting. Elias struck hard and fast, disarming one hunter, slamming another into the wall with bone-shaking force. The third fired wildly, fear overtaking skill. A blast clipped Elias' shoulder. He grunted but kept moving. With one final blow, the last hunter fell unconscious against the wall. Silence fell again, thick, ringing silence. Elias leaned against the bulkhead, breathing hard, blood soaking his sleeve. Leary ran to him instantly. "You're hurt," she cried. He smiled weakly. "I've had worse." She pressed her small hands against his wound, panic in her eyes. "I don't want you to die," she whispered. He knelt despite the pain, meeting her gaze. "Listen to me, Leary. Whatever happens next, you remember this. Your life matters, not because of what you are, not because someone wants to own you." He gently touched her forehead, "But because you're you." Her eyes shimmered. A deep rumble echoed through the station, far heavier than before. Elias' expression darkened. "That," he said quietly, "is not a bounty hunter." "What is it?" she asked. He looked toward the distant tremor, dread creeping into his voice. "Something much worse." Above them, ancient doors began to open, doors that hadn't moved in decades. And whatever lay behind them had just woken up. The floor trembled again, not from weapons fire this time, but from something waking up. Elias felt it through his boots, a deep vibration that rolled through the metal like a distant heartbeat. Dust fell from the ceiling in slow, drifting sheets. Somewhere far below, ancient machinery groaned for the first time in centuries. Leary clutched his arm, eyes wide with terror. "What is that?" she whispered. Elias didn't answer immediately. Because he already knew. He had seen sealed installations before. Forgotten black sites buried under trade hubs, hidden beneath civilian life so no one would ever question what lay below. This station wasn't just a marketplace. It was a lid. A massive blast door at the end of the corridor began to unlock, its ancient mechanisms screaming in protest. Warning glyphs flickered to life across its surface, symbols so old most modern translators struggled to read them. Leary stared at the markings, her breath hitching. I can read those," she whispered. Elias turned sharply. "You can." She nodded slowly. "They're not words, they're feelings, warnings." She swallowed, They say, do not wake the seed. The ground shook harder. A thunderous clang echoed as the final lock disengaged. The door began to open. Inside wasn't darkness, it was light, pulsing, alive, shifting in impossible colors that made Elias' eyes burn if he stared too long. The air grew warm, heavy with static and something else, something ancient. Leary cried out, clutching her head. "It's calling," she whimpered. "It's calling me." Elias pulled her close. "Don't listen. Whatever it is, it's not in control." But even as he said it, he felt it too, a pressure behind his eyes, a presence brushing against his thoughts like curious fingers. "You carry one of us." The voice wasn't sound. It was sensation, memory, emotion. Elias staggered back a step. "What the hell are you?" he demanded. The light pulsed brighter. "We are what remains." Images flooded his mind, an ancient civilization spanning stars, beings of light and thought, creators of gateways and worlds. And then fear. War. Betrayal. They had been hunted. Their solution had been desperate. They fractured themselves, fragments sealed inside living vessels, scattered across the galaxy, hidden as children no one would look twice at. Children like Leary. "She's not just a survivor," Elias whispered. "She's a container." Leary cried out, collapsing to her knees as glowing patterns spread across her skin like living constellations. "I don't want this," she sobbed. "I just wanted a home." Elias rushed to her side, pulling her into his arms as the chamber shook violently. "I know," he said fiercely, "and you're going to have one." The voice returned, stronger now. "Release her. She is ours." Elias stood, placing himself between Leary and the light. "No," he said. "You had your chance. You used her kind as shields, as storage, as tools." The chamber trembled violently. "She carries our future." "So do all children," Elias snapped. "That doesn't give you the right to steal it." The light surged, then hesitated. For the first time it felt uncertain. Leary clutched his coat. "It hurts," she whispered. "But when you're here, it hurts less." Elias made his choice. He stepped forward straight into the light. Every alarm screamed, every system overloaded. The station began to tear itself apart, but instead of pain, he felt warmth, connection, understanding. The ancient presence recoiled. "You would bind yourself to her, to a single life." "Yes," Elias said, gladly. Silence fell, then something changed. The light dimmed, the pressure lifted. The presence withdrew, slowly, carefully, afraid. The chamber went dark. When the emergency lights flickered on, the ancient structure stood dormant once more. And in Elias' arms, Leary slept peacefully, the glow on her skin fading to soft, human warmth. He carried her out as the station began to collapse behind them. Outside, rescue ships filled the void, drawn by the energy surge, by the impossible readings. Elias didn't look back. He had one job now. Protect the child the universe had tried to use. And somewhere deep in the stars, something ancient watched him go. And waited. The galaxy noticed within hours. Energy spikes from the dead sector rippled through every major monitoring array. Ancient algorithms, long dormant, lit up across military command hubs, research sanctuaries, and forbidden archives. One name appeared again and again. Elias Hart. On the bridge of the United Galactic Council's flagship, silence reigned as holograms flickered to life. A tall avian diplomat folded his wings tightly. "A human has interfered with the containment protocol," he said. "He bonded with the vessel." A scaled delegate hissed in disbelief. "Impossible. The child was a key, not a person." "She is a person," another voice cut in, a soft, trembling one. "That is what you never understood." Screens shifted, displaying footage pulled from station surveillance. Elias standing protectively before Leary, bloodied, unbroken, refusing to move. The chamber fell quiet. "The human did not submit," one counselor whispered. "He chose her." "That choice," another said darkly, "may cost us everything." Far from the council chambers, Elias woke to the soft hum of medical equipment. White light filtered through translucent walls. He smelled antiseptic and something else. Flowers. He stirred, pain blooming across his body, and felt a small weight against his chest. Leary. She was curled up against him, asleep, her fingers clutching his shirt like an anchor. Her breathing was slow, peaceful for the first time since he'd met her. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. A voice spoke gently from nearby. "She hasn't left your side." He looked up to see a woman standing near the doorway, tall, silver-haired, dressed in simple robes marked with the emblem of the Galactic Mediation Corps. "You're awake," she said. "Good. There's much to discuss." Elias sat up carefully. "Where are we?" "A neutral sanctuary," she replied. "Beyond council reach for now." His eyes narrowed, and Leary. The woman hesitated, She's changing. Elias stiffened. What kind of changing? The woman gestured, and a soft hologram appeared above her palm, readings, energy waves, genetic patterns spiraling in impossible geometries. She carries a fragment of something ancient, the mediator explained. But it's stabilizing because of you. Elias looked down at the child. How? Attachment, the woman said simply. Connection, your species has an unusual capacity for it. He let out a dry laugh. So loving a kid is some kind of superpower now. The woman's gaze softened. In a galaxy built on control and calculation, yes. Before he could respond, alarms chimed softly through the chamber. The mediator stiffened. They've found us. Who? Elias asked. Everyone. The room's main display ignited, showing dozens, no, hundreds of incoming signatures. Warships, envoys, scientists. Factions that had once agreed never to interfere now racing toward one point. All because of one human and one child. They want her, Elias said. They want what she represents, the mediator corrected. A future not bound by their rules. Elias stood, gently lifting Leary into his arms. Then they'll have to go through me. The woman met his gaze, something like respect shining in her eyes. You cannot fight all of them. Elias looked down at the girl, at the faint glow beneath her skin, the steady rhythm of her heart against his. No, he said quietly, but I don't have to. The station shuddered as space warped outside. Unknown ships emerged, sleek, unfamiliar designs bearing no known insignia. Not warships, guardians. Ancient protectors answering a call long thought lost. The mediator's breath caught. The old alliances, they're responding. Elias felt a strange calm settle over him. Somewhere in the depths of space, a message was spreading, carried not by technology, but by something older. A message that said, the child is protected, the human stands with her, and the galaxy must choose what comes next. Leary stirred, blinking sleepily up at him. Are we safe now? She asked. Elias smiled softly. For now, he said. But this is only the beginning. Beginning. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Across dozens of systems, fleets slowed. Borders once fiercely defended went strangely quiet. Commanders stared at their sensors, unsure whether to prepare for war or salvation. Because the signal was spreading. Not a transmission. A presence. It moved through subspace like a living thought, touching ancient relays, forgotten monuments, and dormant machines buried beneath civilizations that had forgotten why they were built. And wherever it touched, one truth became impossible to ignore. The child lived, and the human stood with her. On the observation deck of the sanctuary station, Elias watched unfamiliar ships drop out of hyperspace one by one. Massive silhouettes drifted into view, vessels of designs unseen in any modern registry. Some bore markings older than recorded history, others bore none at all. They're answering the call, the mediator whispered beside him. Those who still remember what was promised. Elias folded his arms tightly as Leary slept against his chest, her faint glow pulsing in time with his heartbeat. What was promised? He asked. The mediator hesitated, then spoke softly. Long ago, when the galaxy was young, the first ones realized their power would destroy everything if left unchecked. So they made a vow to step away, to bind their essence into living vessels who would grow, feel, choose, and one day decide whether the galaxy was worth saving. Elias' jaw tightened. You turned children into safeguards. Yes, she admitted, and we told ourselves it was mercy. A tremor rippled through the station as a new fleet arrived, sleek, angular warships bearing the insignia of the Dominion. They didn't come to protect, the mediator said quietly. They came to claim. Elias shifted his stance, shielding Leary instinctively. She's not a weapon, he growled. She's a kid. To them, the mediator replied, she's the key to rewriting reality. A voice suddenly echoed through the chamber, amplified, commanding, cold. Human Elias' heart relinquished the asset. The image of a towering armored figure filled the air, eyes glowing with artificial light. You are obstructing galactic stability. Elias met its gaze without flinching. She has a name, he said, and she's not yours. The figure's eyes narrowed. Then you stand against the galaxy. Elias looked down at Leary. She had woken again, watching the exchange silently. Her small hand tightened around his sleeve. He met her eyes and saw something new there, not fear. Resolve. He turned back to the projection. Then the galaxy will have to live with that. Silence followed, then movement. Across the stars, ships aligned themselves, not toward Elias but around him. Old rivals, former enemies, species that had once sworn never to fight side by side. The mediator stared in awe. "They're choosing," she whispered. A single message broadcast across all channels, carried on every frequency known and unknown. "We stand with the child." The Dominion's signal faltered. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power cracked. Elias exhaled slowly. He hadn't meant to start a war, but he would finish one. Leary rested her head against his chest. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked softly. Elias looked out at the gathered fleets, at the countless lives now tied to this moment. "Yes," he said, kissing her forehead. "No matter what comes, you're not alone anymore." Beyond the viewport, the stars shifted as fleets aligned into battle formation. History was about to be rewritten. Silence fell across the stars, not the calm kind, but the kind that comes before everything changes. The fleets faced one another across the void. Ancient guardians, fractured alliances, cold warships built for domination. Weapons glowed, targeting systems locked, and countless lives hung in the balance. At the center of it all stood one human and one small child. Leary clutched Elias' jacket as the light within her pulsed brighter than ever before. The energy rippled outward in waves, bending space, distorting sensors, causing entire fleets to flicker like mirages. The galaxy held its breath. The Dominion's flagship spoke again, its voice amplified across every channel. "Last warning. Surrender the vessel, or face eradication." Elias stepped forward alone. He removed his weapon, then he did something no one expected. He knelt, not in surrender, in choice. He placed one hand over his heart and the other gently on Leary's shoulder. "You want her," he said calmly. "Then you'll have to go through me and everything I believe in." The silence stretched, then Leary lifted her head. Her eyes glowed brighter than stars. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said softly, her voice echoing across the void without amplification. "But I won't be taken anymore." The energy around her changed, not violent, not destructive, protective, warm. The ancient systems across the galaxy responded as one. Old weapons powered down, ancient gates sealed. Reality itself seemed to listen. The truth became clear to all who watched. The power the ancients feared was never destruction. It was choice, freedom, the ability to say no. The Dominion's fleets began to withdraw one by one, their commanders suddenly aware that victory meant becoming the very monsters they claimed to oppose. The galaxy chose restraint, it chose hope. And in that moment the long age of fear ended, the stars dimmed to a peaceful glow. The threat was gone, not destroyed, but released. Later, on a quiet world under a warm sky, Elias stood beside a small house surrounded by open fields. Leary ran through the tall grass, laughing freely, her light soft and gentle now, no longer a burden but a part of who she was. She looked back at him and smiled. "Dad," she asked. He swallowed, emotions thick in his chest. "Yes, sweetheart." She grinned. "Can we stay here?" Elias watched the horizon, the endless sky stretching wide and unafraid. He knelt and opened his arms. "As long as you want," he said, "this is home." Above them, unseen but watching, the galaxy moved forward, changed forever by a simple truth. That sometimes, the greatest force in the universe is a human who chooses to love.